Hey everyone! In today's episode, we go all the way from the western half of the US to the far east coast. We start in Wyoming with a crazy story from a Yellowstone park ranger. The way the story is told will make you feel worries you didn't know you had. Next, we go to a warehouse in Burlington County, New Jersey, where two people who start work early in the morning see something that makes them change the way they work forever. So, while you think about all the crazy things that are about to happen to you, don't forget to sign up. Great! Let's start the stories now. It was the summer of 2010, and I had a job at Yellowstone National Park. I was helping with conservation work, and this week I was put in charge of maintaining a trail. That's when I met the person. I remember it was a hot day, and I decided to take a break by going down to the river and eating lunch there. There are many rivers in the park, like the Yellowstone and Snake rivers, but the Firehole River is my favorite. People also like to fish with flies in this river. I also find it interesting that most of the water from the park's geysers flows into the river, making the water there warmer. Overall, I think this part of the park is beautiful and peaceful. When I got to the river, it wasn't too crowded, which made me happy, since park visitors often ask a lot of questions when you're wearing your park uniform. That's okay, because I love helping people, but sometimes it's hard to eat lunch, and I was starving that day. So, as I sat there and ate and relaxed, I saw something move along the bank of the river on my side. At first, I thought it was a deer, but then I saw how close to the ground it was moving. I watched it move along the bank for about 20 minutes before it stopped and looked right at me, as if it had known I was there the whole time. Then my heart started to beat faster, and I realized that what I was looking at wasn't from around here, or even this planet. The head of the creature was long and thin, and its ears stuck out in front of its head instead of on top. Like most animals, or at least the ones I know, its eyes were big and dark brown, and its nose looked like it was flat against its face instead of sticking out like a snout would. It just sat there and looked at me for a while without making any noise or moving. I watched as its eyes kept looking at me but blinked every 5 seconds or so. This made me feel weird, like it was trying to connect with me or send me a message or something. After a while, I was able to shake my head and break the mutual stare, so I moved closer to it to try to get a better look. But the thing turned around and ran away as soon as I did that. It moved so quickly that it was gone in just a few seconds, disappearing into the grass along the riverbank. Then I got up and walked over to where it had been standing to look for tracks or anything else it might have left behind, but I couldn't find anything. After that, I decided to head back up to the main trail since my break was over and I still had work to do. I started to think that maybe it was just a ghost or something because I was tired, hot, and hungry. So I just went about my day. I just went about my life and work. But a few days later, I ran into him again. This time, it happened while I was on patrol in a truck during the day. On that day, it was hot and dry, so there were no clouds to cover the sun. As I drove through the park on one of the main roads, I saw strange things happening to the side. It's interesting how you just know what's normal in the park and what's not. I noticed right away that the grass on the side of the road was moving in an odd way. I pulled over my truck to get a better look and saw that it was one of those things that moved through the grass on its hands and feet. It moved quickly, like very quickly. It moved from one place to another but never stood up or ran. I sat there for a while and watched this thing crawl around. Then I heard a noise and saw a flash of light, and it was gone right in front of me. After that, I was very careful. I was sure that these creatures were keeping an eye on the park and possibly even following me. To tell the truth, I was beginning to worry that I was going crazy. After that, I saw them crawling along the roads or moving through the grass more often, but I didn't tell anyone because I wasn't sure if they would have believed me. So I just kept it to myself. I didn't start telling other rangers about what I'd seen until recently, and they told me that other people had seen the same things. People call them crawlers because they move so quickly on their hands and feet but never stand up. I don't know what they are or how they got there. But I'm sure I'll never forget the way those dark eyes looked at me. I'll never forget how quickly they move and how they can vanish right in front of your eyes. So, if you ever go to that park, you should just keep an eye out for them because I'm sure they'll be watching you too. I got to work late or, more accurately, very early that morning on the night this happened. I got home an hour before everyone else, at 5 in the morning. On a cold day in February 2017 in Burlington County, New Jersey, when it was late and quiet. The parking lot looks like an abandoned town, but of course it isn't. There are still a few cars here and there, but most employees don't start coming in until 6 in the morning, anyway. Usually, this shift in the early morning goes by quickly, but the last few nights had gone too slowly. It had nothing to do with how busy we've been, but rather with the strange things that have been going on around the shop lately, like things going missing and windows breaking. But we work in a warehouse that gets deliveries all night long. So it's important that someone is there. Since strange things keep happening, I couldn't call off. Some of my co-workers even begged me not to come alone, but it's hard to find anyone else who wants to work that shift. So, I was alone again that night, and after hearing what they had to say, I was scared and wondered what new hell might be behind the big metal doors that led to the delivery area. It was probably my paranoia acting up again, along with all the rumors, since there's no real proof of anything bad happening other than a few broken windows that could have been caused by kids or drunks, among other things. Well, there were also those tools that were missing, but no one ever said anything because they were always gone. We always have to order more of something, which I think makes us look bad at work. I've always thought that maybe one of the people who work here is stealing them. Anyway, as I pulled into the parking lot, that tingling feeling went down my back. You know, the kind that makes it hard to pay attention to anything. I told myself though that tonight would be different. Because I'll be busy and nothing will happen, tonight will go by quickly. Well, in the end, the night didn't go by any faster than usual, and up until the incident, everything did seem normal. While I was on the forklift putting things away on the shelves, I caught a glimpse of something moving quickly outside one of the broken windows. It was a quick movement, something big and quick at the same time, which seemed like an odd mix. I quit what I was doing and looked out the window. I was standing there trying to figure out what was there when I saw the same thing move again. This time, it went around the building and out of sight. It went fast and was bigger than the window. So whatever it was, it had to be at least 7 or 8 feet tall. Its height was strange enough, but I thought I saw what looked like a dark-colored arm hanging down, but I couldn't be sure because it was still so dark outside. Then, not long after that, I was sure I heard someone shake the front door. So, I panicked, and I drove the forklift as fast as I could to a large open space where I didn't feel as vulnerable. I didn't want to be near those windows in case something went wrong. But I also knew that whoever it was would hear the noise from the machine. Not only did they know I was in the building, but they also knew where I was. Now I was really scared, but I told myself it was probably just the same person who steals the tools. Strange to think that a thief was the best thing that could have happened to me. At this point, I waited for a while to see if there was any more movement or sound. When no one came into the building, I realized it must have been one of my co-workers parking and going in the front door, which I couldn't see from the warehouse. So, it wasn't long before my co-worker John came from the front office to the delivery area. He looked like he had just woken up and was on his way to the break room to get a cup of coffee. I tried to act cool and asked if he needed any help, but he didn't say anything and walked right by me like he always does, without even looking up or saying hello. It was strange, but it wasn't that strange for him. I was just glad that someone else had come, so I wasn't there by myself anymore. Well, we both went to work. I continued to sort supplies, and he did what he always did, which was to clean up the delivery area. I kept looking out the broken windows, trying to get a better look at whatever I saw or thought I saw. It couldn't be right, though. It must have been my mind running away with me. There's no weird animal like that out there, for sure. I kept telling myself. I went to the bathroom after a few hours, and when I got back, John was gone. I didn't know for sure where he went. He usually tells me this, and the rules say that there should always be one person on the floor. So I was a little worried that I couldn't find him. I called out his name a few times in case he was on the other side of the building. But no response? I kept my cool, though, and kept putting things away until I heard the door open again. John was standing in the back doorway, but he ran back outside right away. From the way he looked, I knew right away that something was wrong. He looked like he was in a panic. This wasn't the calm, cool John the first usually saw at work every day. He called out to me and sounded like he was in a lot of trouble. There was something about dogs and something else outside the building. When he said the word dog, my heart skipped a beat. I didn't know what to do, so I followed him outside right away, but I didn't see anything. Nothing had changed from before, and it looked like there was nothing out there. But John kept calling and sounding like he really needed my help. Like if you think someone has been attacked or is in big trouble, like if they are drowning or something. I didn't know what to think, but John sounded like he was in big trouble, so I ran out to the parking lot to help him. John was yelling about a dog and saying he needed help. He was looking into the woods with the building behind him, as if he thought something was out there. Boy, did he get it wrong. He wasn't in that place. Where I was standing. Between John and the building, I was. I could see that this dog-like thing was 20 steps behind him and walking toward him. They weren't looking at me, and I'm not sure they even knew I was there yet. From behind, the creature's matted fur made it look more like a dog than a person. But it was walking toward John on two legs, which my brain couldn't figure out. The dog-like thing stopped and turned around to look at me. It looked like it saw me, and then it did something that still gives me the chills. It opened its mouth and barked at me when I thought about it. It wasn't really a bark, though. It was yelling at me in a way that I will never forget. It looked me right in the eyes, snapped its jaws shut, and gritted its teeth. Then it let out a low, guttural growl that seemed to shake the ground. There, we just stood there and looked at it. It looks right at me. Did it wait for me to do something? Who can say? I couldn't even do anything except stand there and watch it. After that, it turned around and ran. It ran right by John without stopping, and then it went into the woods on the other side of the parking lot. I couldn't figure out what was going on. It was like my brain couldn't understand what was happening. It made no sense at all. I couldn't do anything but watch it run away. John was more aware than I was. Every part of it. I didn't understand. Why didn't it come after me or him? But John wasn't in the right frame of mind to care. He didn't need to know why it didn't happen, he was just glad it didn't. He kept telling me that everything would be fine, and it was over and we were safe. It added up to $180. I wanted to believe him. He was taking care of me. But from what I could see, it didn't make sense why it ran away like that. It definitely had the upper hand. There was no good reason for why it ran away. I was left wondering if it just didn't want to kill us or if it was afraid of something we didn't know about or couldn't see. It might have gotten caught up in everything and not even meant to be there. Now, all I can do is wonder if this creature or its tribe, if it exists, has anything to do with our broken windows and missing tools. The idea of a group of armed, dangerous dog-like creatures near the shop keeps me up at night and keeps me from working the night shift. Yes, you're right. I finally took my co-workers' advice and quit working the night shift. But I never told them why. John and I agreed that we wouldn't tell anyone about what happened to us. Both of us are worried that they'll think we're crazy. So, it's been a few weeks, and the thing still hasn't come back. I think it went somewhere else or is just waiting for the next best chance. Interesting, none of the tools have gone missing either. I've also done some research online, and it seems like locals here have a lot of stories about meeting dogmen, but you never hear anyone talk about them in person. I've only seen anonymous posts on the internet. People who experience these things seem to be really affected by them, just like me and John. Since we don't see each other very often, I have no one to talk to about it. I've really thought about going to a therapist, but I'm afraid they'll lock me up. I don't even know if they can do that or if they have to keep our conversations to themselves. I'm actually too afraid to ask.